Well, good afternoon and a very warm welcome to this session on plant spirit medicine as part of Healing Awareness Week 2023. My name is Alison McWhinnie and I'm the Director of Development at the Harry Edwards Healing Sanctuary based in Sheer, Surrey. I would like to introduce to you our speakers for today, who are Pip Waller and Lucy Wells. Pip Waller is a medical herbalist and plant spirit medicine healer living in North Wales, UK. She has been practicing and teaching natural healing methods for 30 years. Her first book, Holistic Anatomy, was published in 2009 and continues to increase in popularity. In 2015, she wrote the Herbal Handbook of Home and Health, a book of 501 herbal recipes for everything from laundry and medicines to string. A shorter 350 recipe version, the Health and Beauty Botanical Handbook, was released in 2018. Her third book, Deeply Holistic, an inspiring book about being human and caring for all our needs, came out in January 2018. Lucy Wells came to plant spirit medicine after a journey through community arts, Tai Chi, and other energetic healing systems, and has been in practice since 2006. She combines her healing work with other arts and performance activities, which also explore the nature of deep and transformative change. She is an initiated firekeeper with the Sacred Fire community, a therapeutic counsellor, and has also trained as a funeral celebrant. She is the author of one other book, The Wave Hub Chronicles, from 2011. So I'd like to hand over to you, Pip. This is not an area I know much about, so I'm really keen to learn as much as possible from you two lovely ladies. So I will hand over to you in the first instance, Pip.
Thanks, Alison. That's lovely. And hello, everyone, anyone that's listening now or will listen in the recording. Yeah, I think the little bit that was missing is that there's the other book, Lucy's other book, which is a book that we wrote together about the plant spirit medicine that we practice, and it's called Touched by Nature, Plant Spirit Medicine Journeys. That's by me, Pip Waller, and Lucy Wells.
Yeah.
Eon Press. And I can't remember, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, something like that.
2019.
2019. The years go so fast, don't they?
Don't they just?
They do, especially the last few bizarre ones. So plant spirit medicine, well, I think what we'll do is I'll say we'll tell you a little bit about how our teacher and how the medicine that we learned came into the world, and we'll tell you what it involves, and also some of what we think. You know, it was birthed into the world, even though in one way it's a very ancient form of healing, the healing of, you could say, the plant spirits, or the energies of plants, of the natural world, are just like their bodies are helpful to heal our bodies with herbal medicine. So their spirits have got a huge amount of healing for our spirit. And we feel pretty sure that all the big changes in the world that are going on, and it's one of the things that's come forward. It's like nature and the plants are really offering so much help about how, for our people, us human people, who are in a little bit of a bad way, in a sense of being very out of balance in our societies. And out of balance, you could say, particularly from our perspective, one of the particular things about that is that the whole culture is so top heavy, mind heavy. And of course, I mean, as anyone that loves nature probably knows, it's something about your heart and your soul that nature really sings and calls out to us, and can help us get into that place, that different place. And of course, any spiritual healing endeavor is always from that realm, really. Even though we might need the mind to sort of understand the nuts and bolts and the nitty gritty and things, how we might, we have to sort of study things, but the actual healing is very much of the heart and of the spirit. So, and actually, let's also say that this kind of plant spirit medicine that we do, it doesn't involve ingesting or taking anything. And actually, we don't use any of the sacred teacher plants like ayahuasca and so on. And actually, our teacher had a particular gave us particular teachings about those special plants. So sometimes, a lot of time, people think, oh, plant spirit medicine, that must be ayahuasca. But actually, it isn't what we're talking about, plant spirit medicine. And in fact, plant spirit medicine healers tend to entirely call upon, as the healing allies, tend to entirely call upon the plants that grow in our own place, in our own location. So they're very much indigenous, or they might not be indigenous, but they've been here long enough that they now are. But they're growing here. They're happily growing here. Yeah. Do you want to talk for a bit, Lucy? Say something about Eliot?
Yes.
Or...
Yeah. So our teacher, or the system that we learnt specifically, as Pip says, we're not. We don't use any of the body of the plants. We're using the spirit of the plants, which is this double edge within the words that plant spirit medicine resonate. So it's both using the spirit of the plants or the energy of the plants to affect our human energy, spiritual systems. Now, we can get into trouble with that because not everyone has a good understanding or even a willingness to understand that there's something beyond this physical realm. But if we just, if you suspend any kind of denial of that might be going on with you, and just kind of imagine the effect of walking in a woodland, for example, we know that does something to us. How is it doing it? What's it acting upon? Well, that's, I think, what we're calling spirit or energy. So the system that our teacher very taught, that we have gone on to really, really seriously embrace, myself and Pip, and brought our own experiences into it, uses the 5 elements, which was originally a Chinese diagnostic tool that was used a lot in 5-element acupuncture, as a framework to bring these very diverse, kind of incredibly huge numbers of creative energies that are there in the plant kingdom through to our human systems. And how we do that is, we might get onto it during this talk here, but it also might be something that, if you're sparked by, you can follow up with our website or various courses that we offer. But this 5-element principle understands the world from a very particular perspective of these huge primordial elemental forces that we're all made up of, and so are the plants. So it's a really good meeting point for our different energetic blueprints, if you like. So obviously the human setup is a little bit different from the plants, but there are places energetically that we meet. And because we are all part of this extraordinary energy field that makes up everything, we're all the same thing. This way of calling on the energies of the plants to help the blockages in our human systems has proved, quietly revolutionary, I'm going to say, for healing and for change. And especially at this time in history where we're facing these, massive questions about how to be on the earth. And so the medicine really, really links basically with original indigenous teachings, teachings of how to live with the earth. So all the wisdom keepers of those indigenous traditions know about plant spirit medicine, and so did our original people. And of course, through time and the sort of unfolding of the story, those things have been, those knowings have been driven underground or fragmented or vilified or known as kind of weird and strange and enough to get you burnt. But this stuff is arising almost from the plants as agents of healing, arise directly from the earth. And as such, they're so generous in offering us humans the potential for help at this time.
Lovely, beautifully put. So we could say, as Lucy said, we have the 5-element, it's classical Chinese medicine, sometimes it's called a 5-element system. It's a very elegant system of diagnosis, and with a treatment protocol, way of understanding what the person's spirit is crying out for, what actual medicine is needed, and then a very elegant set of protocols to follow to make sure all the energy is moving in a good way and flowing, and make sure that there are no, sometimes, for example, there's energy from outside that doesn't belong that needs to be removed, and sometimes there are blocks within the person's own flow of energy that need to be unblocked in order to allow healing to really enter in. So that's our, any system of medicine, you've got the theory, or like the diagnosis and the understanding of the disease, and then you've got the therapeutic agent or the healing or the treatment. And so for us, it's the 5-element system is the diagnosis and treatment protocols. But as Lucy said, the healing agents, the actual healing is provided entirely by the energies of what we call them plant spirits. So, and we very much experience them as beings that we have built, we get to know them. So you could think probably anyone that likes being outside and that's nature probably could think, oh, I've got a really good friend, at least one that's a tree, or we have these relationships with nature, with the plant beings, the plant people of nature. Most people, many that have any access to plants, have some kind of relationship like that. And what we do to gain access, to try to, so we can call upon these great beings to help our people. What we do is we build on that relationship. We literally make a certain kind of friendship or relationship with a particular plant, and we do that by spending time outside in nature where the plant's growing. And quite often we spend a lot of time being with the plant in lots of ways. And we also then we try and do a thing which we call entering the dream of nature. We sort of daydream with a plant. So, and then we also use the shamanic dream journey, or the drum journey, which was developed. We used the method that was developed by Michael Harner quite a long time ago. I think it was early 80s or late 70s. It's a way of doing a journey into the realm of spirit, to meet with the plant, the spirit of the plant. So we try to build this relationship in all these ways, and we ask the plants to show us the medicine that they have for our people. And then with our understanding of the 5 elements, we have a way of figuring out or a more specific way of figuring out what a particular person, what particular plant's going to help a particular person at a particular time, because there are gazillions of plants, aren't there? They're everywhere. this is a great time of year to see that, because like every day or so you go for the same walk and you go, oh, there's another one, and there's another one. It's fantastic.
I think what you just referred to in the earlier, your first speaking bit, Pip, which was about the heart and the mind. So we go around quite a lot of the time really in our heads, don't we? And there's loads of current work, including the work that we do, that is designed to slow us down, to get us into what's kind of quite fashionably known as heart coherence. And that's actually, I think, part of what this getting into the zone of the plant spirits is about. It's like a slowing down. You know, it's where it links with other de-stressing techniques and breathing techniques, where we slow down and we start to kind of listen. We start to kind of open up to actually what's really going on, which is something way more extraordinary, and I'm going to use the word magical, than we've been led to believe. I'd like to, with your permission, tell a little story about one such extraordinary event that in our book, really our book is about stories of encountering the plants in a different way, in a what we might call a non-ordinary reality way. But, you know, I think, you know, anyone that's had a nighttime dream that's really, really vivid, where you wake up and you kind of know, you know, the dream is with you, like knows that there's something more mysterious going on with our consciousness generally, or our ability to appreciate what this whole life is. So I was dropped quite early on in my study, which was now kind of 20 years ago or something. I mean, my study specifically of plant spirit medicine. We got told, you know, we needed to do a number of plant studies, so we have a significant materia medica, you know, to draw on to do our treatments with. And I was quite busy at the time, and a little bit always on the go and here and there, and trying to fit something in before going to school to pick up my lad. And, you know, it was all a bit like that. And I thought, oh, well, I'm just going to quickly do a plant study, right? Really completely not the way to engage if we want to get this kind of what we're talking about into the zone, which is really beyond time. How the plants are existing is really beyond time, and how energy works and how we are. So there was me all stressy, like I'm going to go out and quickly pick a plant and, you know, quickly draw it. And I was always pushing the clock a little bit, you know, running it. So there I went up nearby and found violet, and I thought, oh yeah, I'll quickly do a drawing. And I didn't manage to really do that settling down, which is necessary for this, you know, understanding to happen, because it can really happen. As Pip says, you know, we can just be with a favorite plant or tree and we know it as a friend because there's been something that's happened there. So there's me sketching away, and then I think, all right, okay, I've just got enough time to go home and do the drum journey at home before I whisk off up to town. And I'm walking back down from the hill where the violet was. And this elderly man stops me. I lived in a small town, actually, you know, generally knew most of the people. Very elderly man with unusually bright eyes stopped me and said, oh, he had a kind of stick. Said, oh, what are you doing? I said, oh, well, I've just been out. I was chatting away. He said, and he was talking really, really slowly. He said, oh, I've just come out of hospital. And I was like, great, but, I need to go, and he was talking really, really slowly about his hospital and his bypass operation, and being a kind of the person that I am, I wanted to have time for him. An old person on their own. I was kind of thinking, what are you doing walking up the hill? But there we go. So we ended up having this long conversation. Well, it seemed like a very long conversation. This bright-eyed man. And by the time I'd significantly quieted myself to just allow this conversation and think, never mind if I'm a little bit late, it's nothing, the world's not going to explode or anything, just settle down. I got really calm while I talked with him. And then at a certain point, he released me and said, oh, well, you better get on and I'm going to go for my walk. And it was literally like I was released. I was released back into a different time. And I didn't look round because I kind of knew that I wouldn't see anybody walking up that hill. Now, that might feel really far-fetched. And when I did my drum journey, the spirit of Violet told me that it was particularly very, very useful for heart conditions. Now, how to explain that kind of encounter with our normal frame of reference is kind of impossible. But however it was conspired, whether that was a kind of real human that I encountered in that moment, I'm going to say that it taught me something. It taught me something about opening to these other possibilities that exist within this realm that we live and exist from the plant kingdom given to us humans to help our human brothers and sisters. And I think that's really at the heart of our work. Would you say so, Pip?
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that story. I can't hear it too many times, actually. And something about that, that I mean, magic happens, doesn't it? And sometimes it's really spectacular and undeniable, but actually it happens all the time. And often it's very everyday, but we can get very caught up. Our whole culture is very caught up in a different zone. Yeah, for some reason I feel like now saying that Eliot Cowan, he died last March, not this March just gone, the year before, and he really was a very extraordinary healer and teacher. And he started as an acupuncturist. He trained with J.R. Worsley in the early 70s, I think, and over here in the UK, even though Eliot was American. And then 5-element acupunctures can have a very, very deeply spiritual basis. That Eliot talked about how he once saw his teacher J.R. Worsley demonstrating touching the spirit with acupuncture needles, and these huge transformations and experiences that the person being needled had. And that had quite an impression on him. And also, JR used to say, anything you can do with needles, you can do with plants, you can do with herbs. So now Eliot, that stayed with him, and he went back to America and he was practicing. He was a successful acupuncturist, helping a lot of people. But these things stayed with him, and he'd always loved herbs and plants. So one day then he did meet and learn to do the shamanic journey with Michael Harner. And he thought to himself, this is a very potentially interesting way to connect with the spirits of plants using this journey technique. And he started to do it, connect with the spirits of plants in the way that we've described. And and wrote down all his experiences. And because he was very steeped in the 5-element system, which is actually, it's quite nice to say, maybe if you think of the 5 seasons, think of these 5 elements as being very beautifully expressed in each of the 5 seasons. You'll think 5 seasons, but there are 4. But actually there's spring, which we're like really, you know, it's been around a while, and it's now coming to that last bit of it where it's a very upward moving energy, and it's going to start opening out into the summer. So the spring is called the wood energy. It's the energy of growth into the fiery, expansive connection of summer. And then the late summer, this is our 5th season, which is actually the energy changes in sort of late July, August. It's not the same. It's a very different energy. If you've never paid attention to it, do that this year and you'll go, oh yeah, it's really quite a different. It's the season of fruiting and abundance and nourishment and delicious giving from the earth. So that's the element of earth. And then the autumn comes, and that everything gets very serious and fresh, but things start to fall. The leaves start to fall, things start to die back. That's called the metal, season of metal. And then, of course, in the winter, we've got the cold and the dark. We'll talk more about these, but those are we're talking about the 5 elements. So they all have a very particular flavor. When you study them and you immerse yourself in them, you start to experience them as very definite energies that are in the world. They're within us, they're within everything. So, of course, Eliot, like, it was, the plants are of nature and these elements are of nature. So it's very, he naturally experienced the energies of plants in this elemental way. And then he started to experiment with, well, how can I ask this plant to help my client, instead of putting needles in? And he started off having homeopathic potentized remedies made of all the remedies that he had built this relationship with. And he would give the remedies to the person as they were having the healing, and then keep taking. In 5-element medicine as well, you take the pulses in a certain way and you can read what's going on. So he'd give the remedy, take the pulses, another remedy, take the pulses. And then, long story short, that worked really well. But after a time, there was a change in the law in America. So the FDA law meant that the small business that made those remedies for him wouldn't be able to do it anymore. And then he found a way of calling the plants, not using any physical, not even a homeopathic remedy. He found a plant that he saw in his notes from all the years before that there was a plant that had said, I'm your messenger plant. And anytime you need a plant to come and give its healing to your client, I'll do that for you. And so that he then started to work like that, which is how we were taught, and how everyone he's taught for a long time. And then we usually put our hands on the person and call the plant that we've got that relationship with to come and give their beautiful medicine. And then we take the person's pulses to see, because the pulses come into balance. I don't know why, but for some reason I just felt like saying that in that place.
Yeah, that's it's lovely. And then it makes me want to say that for those of you, maybe you're very familiar with the energy system that acupuncture works with. But if you're not, and this is kind of where I got kind of caught into it. I mean, Pit's been a herbalist for loads of years, haven't you, working with plants? But I kind of came to it through Tai Chi and Qigong practice, which also has the same understanding of these channels of energy that run through our systems, that when it's all flowing well, they kind of link up and they nourish all the internal organs, so that we're kind of living optimally and feeling as at ease as possible. But if, like a stream, for whatever reason, the energy in the system gets blocked, then that's what starts to cause the symptoms of what we're calling dis-ease. So where it isn't easy. So I love that there's a kind of Taoist saying that easy is right, you know, and again, that can be quite kind of, that, you know, life is supposed to be easy. It's not that it isn't without its challenges and its experiences that are going to take us through all the different events of our life. It's not that we get away without experiencing anything, but we're designed to be able to cope with that. So this is where kind of acupuncture originated from, was placing a needle at certain points on these energy channels, which are quite difficult to really, you know, you can have maps of them where they look like they're all on the surface of the skin, when in reality they're these big kind of vortexes that kind of flow through our systems. That, you know, when you've seen these lovely drawings of all the kind of light flowing through in a toroidal pattern, and, you know, this sort of central channel where all the wheels of the chakras are, whichever system works for you, because they're all systems, aren't they? But this system that runs the what's known as the meridian, or the channels of energy, that Chinese medicine that our teacher Eliot started learning from, and then put together this beautifully elegant way of then calling the energy of these amazing, you know, the myriad potential of the plant kingdom in its energetic expression, you know. And he'd often say, you know, plants know how to be themselves in ways that some of us as humans have had real trouble knowing how to be ourselves, because of conditioning and, you know, also sort of ancestral conditioning and programming, that sort of, and also the state of the world and what it's been through, and how that's affected the ability for our energies to really flow. So I sort of wanted to add that to that bit, because I think we're trying to just flow here, aren't we, with what we're offering to do with what we're calling our plant spirit medicine. So it was actually at a Qigong meeting that, and I think it's worth saying, Eliot wrote a book in the, when was that he wrote the original one? In the 80s, early 80s or something. I was at a Qigong workshop, and I'd really wanted to study 5-element acupuncture, and hadn't managed to. I got to I got myself a job as a doctor's receptionist to pay for the course, and then I went on an introductory weekend. It was at Leamington JR's college, the 5-element college, and I just couldn't get on with it, and I was so disappointed. So, you know, fast forward, there we are at this Qigong meeting with lots of acupuncturists, and they say, have you read this book?
This book.
It's called Plant Spirit Medicine.
1995.
1995.
And now there's a more recent version.
Yeah. And I didn't even have to write it down. It went in. It's like, I have to read that. And actually, interestingly, I think all the people that did study with Eliot, there was sort of like this call out from the forces to collect us up, to come and do this, what we're going to, you know, it's divine work, literally the divine natural world calling people to this work in whichever way they're going to best be of service to help the healing that's necessary at this time. So now I'm blathering. Back over to you, Pip.
Yeah, well, that reminds me of one thing it reminds me of is that I haven't got a copy of our book at the moment to go, and this is our book, so I don't know whether maybe we can have a screen share or something, Alison, later, and I can just bring up a picture of it. So, but it does, yeah, what Lucy was saying about the plant. This isn't happening by accident, you know. And so Eliot found this way, and then it spread like a dandelion, made a beautiful flower, and then it made a mighty seed head, which spread everywhere, and it's got all kinds of different offshoots, and all kinds of people have taken it in all sorts of directions. But
yeah, I kind of want to say that, you know, we want to be really, really respectful of our teacher, because he was, you know, like has been said, he was an extraordinary healer and a visionary to be able to put this system into place. And actually quite a lot of people have used what he taught but not credited him. So we're quite keen to make sure that we honor the lineage that we're working with. Even though we also take it and have made it our own in our own process with working with it.
We have, but we did also spend really right up until he died, working with quite closely with him and being trained, and we did train in the end later on to be teachers, and he gave us his blessing to go to teach it. So we're trying to teach as close as possible to the method that we learned, not because we don't think it's valuable when, you know, things go out there, don't they, and they morph, but actually the original thing is valuable too. And so if there's something about trying to sort of start from there, and then there's a morphing. Anyway, the story I wanted to say was, this is a vision that I had, or a journey that I had, where it really came to me about this power of nature that so many beneficial, positive forces of nature are offering themselves to human beings at this time to help us. And obviously there's a huge amount of celestial and heavenly energy, but there's also this absolutely masses of what is expressed in nature herself and in the plant kingdom. So that the vision that I had was, I entered a place that I called it, this is the realm of the plant spirits, because I didn't know what else to call it. It was very psychedelic. It was like, if you could imagine somehow like a very, very busy jungle full of almost every plant that has ever existed or could exist. But it's not only 3D, there's a kind of 6-dimensional or something. Each one of there are these plants that are there in a physical form, but then behind them there's some sort of being. And then I saw, and that's pretty trippy, sort of you know, you can't get your head around it at all. But then I saw down on the earth, I saw like people, I don't know, just sort of doing things. So I saw some people doing what we do, you know, taking pulses and touching. And I saw other people, you know, as if they were in all the sorts of different ways that different cultures have found of calling on, I guess it's praying for the help of these divine beings. And it was very beautiful, because I realized, you know, we've got this, for us it's a 5-element protocol. It's actually quite stringent, it's quite rigorous, you could say. It's very detailed. It involves really quite a lot of study and learning and understanding how all these things are put together. And then we do our best to apply those protocols. But at the end of the day, when we put our hands on somebody and we call a plant, one of our plant friends, to come, they're coming from this realm, this incredible realm of the plant spirit. Something opens up, and that energy comes into the energy of the person and changes it. And the changes can be astonishing. Not only, I mean, not always, but very often, of course, people's, you know, what they think of as their problems, their physical illness resolves, you know, moves on. But the thing that happens almost every time with everybody is something changes about how people feel inside. So, I mean, the most recent, I could report this. So I saw somebody that I've only seen, that it was the second time of seeing them. I just saw them for the second time recently, and what they reported, actually they'd had quite a lot of physical symptoms that had come more frequently of the physical problems that they had. But they said, but then there was a week where they kept stopping and going, oh, I feel better than I've felt for a very, very long time. I mean, better inside, despite whatever symptoms or, and that, for me, that's great. I like to hear that, because then, you're on the right track, because and this is what we learned from Eliot, but what our spirit is really crying out for, if it starts to get that, then really everything becomes so much easier. As Lucy said, the beautiful way of ease.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that, Pip, because it's put me in mind of, the reach of this medicine is vast. Some people come for, they come for the kind of one-to-one sessions, and, we work together over time, because it's not a whiz bang, everything suddenly solved. It works like nature works, slowly, gently, persevering with the stuff that presents us with the problems. And this sort of, the signature is this kind of easing where we feel better. And it put me in mind of, I got called to the house of a man who was dying, and they were quite unusual people. They were kind of quite switched on, and they really wanted a conscious death. And he just quite suddenly had, whether it was a stroke or something, put him in his bed, and they knew it was his time. They didn't really want a lot of doctoring or hospital intervention, but they just called me, and I went and just did what I could do. I mean, a lot of the time we could say, despite all the checking and the pulse taking and the strict protocols that we have, we don't really know what the plants are doing, because we can't perceive of their extraordinary energetic potential. It's like the potential of light. We don't know that. We're just trying to be of the best service that we can in matching. So I did what I could do, and I left. I just kind of cleared what I could do and left. And not much later, I had a little email from the woman who said, well, she'd seen this light pouring in, and then she'd had she sort of channels, that's probably the best way to say what she does, and she'd just had this download that the energies that were in the way of him leaving had been cleared by the plant spirits, and that was a really necessary part of his journey to be able to then go on to die really peacefully, which he did a week or so later. So I liked that you spoke of your vision there, Pip, because there are so many instances of having feedback from our clients that we work with, of these seemingly almost disconnected events, which we're never going to claim anything except out of respect for the plant spirits. I'd like to say that when we ask for their help, they do deliver, in a very, very broad, wide range of, it can be the ease of symptoms, or it can be the clearing of blocks to life unfolding in the way that it needs to for us. So it's a very, very, very broad reach as a medicine.
That reminds me, a much lighter. I mean, I love that story, but it reminds me of their broad reach. That I had one time a client that, I think this story might be in our book actually, but I had this client one time who was really skint, and I treated them with this particular plant, happened to be a tree, and they were, when they were leaving, they're walking along the road, and there was one of those trees growing nearby, and they just happened to look up, and there was a fiver just stuck in the like, just like that, stuck there at just above head level. So
yeah,
which they felt was like a gift from the plant.
I actually had that similar thing, which I also think we put in the book, which was when I was quite hard up, but under Storksbill in the fire circle, I was just clearing it and tidying up, and then tucked underneath this plant was a £20 note. It was such a like, what? So yeah, I mean, that's the whole reach, isn't it?
Lighter one.
But I'm thinking I'm just thinking as well that another kind of lovely everyday kind of magic thing that's worth doing if you're listening to this is just to really notice what's growing outside your door, because that is another way that you can, without needing to consult a plant spirit medicine healer or think that it's something that's beyond what's just there with you, is just really notice what, how plants do their thing where they pop up. They pop up, outside your door, literally, or the cracks in the pavement down by where you live, or I took a cutting of some mint from my neighbours down there, and I was really trying to grow it here, and it just wouldn't take, and it's like, oh right, okay, that's not going to do that anymore. And then like the following year, I think I was growing peas over there, and this mint just arrived, the same mint, this beautiful sort of black spearmint, just popped up in amongst the peas growing, and I particularly love.
He likes pea and
mint soup.
It's a speciality. I didn't know about the mint in the peas. That's great.
Yeah, and now it's like completely flourishing in the garden. So that's what I think is just a small little exercise. Just really notice how the plants, because there's a switch on, there's a feedback loop that's happening all the time anyway. But there's particularly with the plant, I mean, you might have it with animals as well and people, the synchronous, serendipitous things happening to offer you what you need at any particular point. The plants show up for us, and their generosity is extraordinary. It's absolutely, it's kind of, it's like the amazing bounty that is actually the abundance of this green planet that we're living on, is beyond, I think, what we could actually conceive.
That's it. They're so generous. I'm just thinking, well, there's one little story that I want to tell as well. And then I also want to show you, I'm going to put our I think I can share the screen. I'm going to try.
Yeah, you've made a co-host.
This is our website. This is our website. It's called touchedbynaturepsm.uk. And so on here, you can see our book, which is called also, and that book, as Lucy said, it's got over 50 stories from 50 different people of various different kinds of stories of experiences. And it's also we've got an online course. It's a seasonal connection course. We do in-person courses, plant spirit medicine. The next one's May, but we've got the same one in September. In fact, we need to change the website, Lucy. We haven't changed the dates. And we've also, on the online course, actually, we've got a free course at the moment, which is about, give you a little taste of how we work anyway. So that's our website. Let's go back to the beginning. There we are. And then this little story it's the third time it kept coming in my mind, so I just want to tell it. And we were teaching, we'd done a weekend of introducing people to how to be with plants and journey with them, get to know them, so on. It's our introductory weekend. And one of the people on this weekend had this amazing, beautiful journey. It was with red clover. And in the journey, the red clover had this, like, it was like a tortoise, not a tortoise, a hedgehog, but the spines of the head, it was like a cloak of red clover petals, you know, like a hedgehog. She'd had a really powerful journey with this plant spirit. And then she went back, leaving in the night. In those weekends, we always have a sacred fire on the Saturday night that Lucy, who's a fabulous firekeeper, does that bit. We do it together. And so it's a late night. So at 10 o'clock, maybe, she was going back to her car, and which parked in a little lay-by on a little back country lane. And she looked down, she was like, oh, there's a stone. It's like a big stone or something by the wheel of the car. And she thought, oh, and she leapt down to, you know, move it. And she realized it was a massive hedgehog that had just, there it was, later on that same day. And it was one of those, those little magical threads of things that happen in life that, if we're on the ball for them, if we let them in, then they remind us that we can believe in magic and healing and all good things, and indeed we are in the hands of the God's hands, and the universe is always conspiring to help us at all times. Yeah. I think the hedgehog kept asking to be brought into the story then, because it kept sort of popping up.
Yeah. Ooh, there we are. So did Minnie.
Speaking of popping up.
Yeah, so I that's a thank you for bringing that one in, because that's a gorgeous one, and it just illustrates really. So I think that's what, to kind of conclude, it would be nice to invite you to just really do your quietening down and have a look around, see what's there, and let yourself kind of breathe. If you do your heart breathing, which is where literally you just breathe from your heart center with these plants, you can kind of get the thing where I'm looking at dandelion right now. You can get with my small lion, you can get the feeling that the space divides, that not divides, dissolves. And, you know, we are this incredible creative potential for healing.
So
in conjunction with the plant kingdom.
We like listen to plants as well as talk to them, and also practice telling our minds, thank you very much for your input when you're telling me I'm making this up, or nothing's really happening, but like trust what your experiences are, that definitely those plants. And when you make friends with plants and you start noticing them, Eliot also used to say this, and this is one of the most beautiful things I remember all the time, that he said that when we see and recognize the divine beings that are in the natural world all around us, including all the plants, when we're seeing them like that, they know that we're seeing them like that, and they respond, and that energy comes to meet us in the most beautiful way. And then the whole world becomes alive and magical. And what happens, loads of people that get into doing this, they say, well, and then when they're walking along, the plants will be waving at them. You're looking at a plant thinking, oh, isn't that cool? And then it starts waving, and it's like you've got friends everywhere you go when you make friends with plants. So yeah, that's our that's plant spirit medicine for from us to you with lots of love.
Yeah, in an hour nutshell. Thank you. Thank you for
Oh,
listening.
Pip and Lucy, what a fascinating talk. And I can't believe actually that we've been going for about an hour, because the time just absolutely whizzed by. And I don't know where that hour has gone, but I love your stories. They're just so beautiful and magical. Thank you so much. Does anybody in the room have any questions before we wrap up for today? We've got one comment in the chat box. Thank you so very much for all of your input. It was fascinating. Well, I fully agree with that comment. Absolutely fully agree.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting us.
Oh, you're most welcome. And what a lovely contribution to Healing Awareness Week. Very special. Well, if there's no questions, I will stop our recording. So goodbye to our viewers who are watching on catch up, and thank you so much for watching this clip. And do have a look at the website that came up during the talk. It's a beautiful website and lots of really good information there to take you further on this journey. But thank you very much, and goodbye for now.